Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back.
Best stay back, sir. Police, boys! He's dead!
Now there should be a new vampire body here, from which we can get a collectible. So now we are only missing 3 of them.
You're mine!
So Prewen never left Doris's theater after they invaded. They must be holding Edgar here in their new headquarters.
It smells like rotten meat. One's near. I know it. Don't forget to check every door. Over there! There's one of them Remember your voice, friends! Over there! There's one of them vermin!
civilians allowed, sir.
It's locked.
Stay close, guys. Don't forget to check every door.
God walks with me.
Doris Fletcher was about to become a disaster. I'm getting close to having all the evidence.
Stop, Vampyr! Shall prevail.
Stay close. Keep an eye on each other.
I cannot enter.
Step away, sir. Your name! <sighs> 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 <sighs>
Blood of a pure heart, garlic, blood of a king. I don't understand. Perhaps this is what McCullum drank. I had better keep that in mind. I should find the key to that box. It's locked, all right.
Remember your voice! We cannot be... Its head!
I can now open the box.
Stay close. Keep an eye on each other. Stay close, guys.
Now, once we open the box, it's really important not to read the book that we get from it. Like, whatever happens, just don't press the tab key, or whatever key you use to read the items. Just don't read it. I'm gonna tell you when to read it. At least we're gonna try one experiment. So basically, we have this side quest from this guy. And he told us not to read it. And we're not gonna read it.
I really don't know if I should read this.
Don't click it. Don't press the button. Okay. I will read it, but not yet.
Edgar. Edgar, can you hear me?
Jonathan, is it really you?
Easy. Easy. Save your strength. I'm getting you out of here.
Don't try to spare me. As a physician, I know all too well when it's too late. Punctured lung, broken ribs, and internal bleeding. An accurate diagnosis, wouldn't you say?
Edgar, what happened?
They wanted me to confess. Beat me black and blue.
Jeffrey McCullum ambushed me at the Pembroke Hospital. He was convinced you and I were responsible for the Skal epidemic.
I never imagined that self-righteous fanatic would dare to attack us in the open. What became of him?
To prove him wrong, I let him go.
Really? Are you sure that was the wisest course of action?
Time will tell. The most intriguing part of his accusation was that you and I were the pawns of some ancient vampire.
William Marshall. Yes, they tortured me to make me confess the same nonsense.
I think you're hiding something, Edgar.
What do you mean?
William Marshall, for example. You speak of him as if you know him. How is that?
Jonathan, I cannot say I'm ready for another round of questions.
Why would the Guard of Priwen believe you and I created the vampire epidemic?
Maybe due to our profession? Because I offered you shelter in my hospital.
What can you tell me about William Marshall?
Not much. History paints the story he was the greatest knight who ever lived. Amongst the immortals, he had a yet greater legend.
Why is the Guard of Priwen so obsessed with him?
He was the only ancient vampire to escape the first great hunt launched by the Guard of Priwen in 1854. They believe he's an evil creature plotting his return.
Why would he deserve such a reputation?
I cannot say. The Brotherhood of St. Paul's Stole has next to no intelligence on him. All I know is that he's supposed to be the oldest of all the British vampires.
While investigating the epidemic, I read some of McCullum's findings. I think you have some explaining to do.
I have nothing to hide, Jonathan. Nothing at all.
Do you know Doris Fletcher's real name?
No, I'm afraid not.
Her real name was Doris Jones. She was the daughter of Harriet Jones.
What do you want me to say, Jonathan?
Do you remember when we suspected Sean Hampton of killing Harriet Jones?
Yes. The terrible episode that came as a shock to us all.
Harriet Jones faked her own death. When I found her in the sewers, she confessed she wanted everybody to pay for what happened to her.
That woman was extremely bitter, full of hatred and festering anger.
Doris Fletcher visited her mother at the Pembroke Hospital. That's how she first got infected.
I know nothing about that. Miss Fletcher once came to visit the sick. That is all I know.
No, Edgar, there is more. Doris Fletcher was Harriet Jones's daughter. They exhibited the same symptoms: blind hate and strong physical mutation.
What does this sad story have to do with us?
Do you know where we are? Doris Fletcher's theater. This is where that hateful creature plotted to spread the epidemic across London.
I only briefly met Miss Fletcher once when she visited the Pembroke Hospital. You say it was to see her mother. She seemed like such a sweet and graceful woman.
My point exactly. The disease turned her into a bitter soul, driven by vengeance just like her mother, a symptom of all the infected patients.
Certain diseases are known to produce similar effects. Rabies, for example. And rabies is not the devil at work.
Come on, Edgar. Don't you see the pattern here? The epidemic, the link between Doris and Harriet, the suspicion of McCullum?
How could I? I never saw Harriet Jones again after she fled the hospital.
Doris and Harriet shared more than a hidden family bond. They were the embodiment of the epidemic and are linked to the Pembroke Hospital. Come on, Edgar, this is no coincidence.
I swear I'm at a complete loss. All I did was administer vampire blood to cure old Harriet. There was no evil plan, no diabolical plot.
You did what?
I tested the regenerating and healing properties of vampire blood on Harriet Jones. My only intention was to find the cure for influenza, I swear.
Whose blood did you use? William Marshall's? Mine?
Lady Ashbury's. While transfusing her with human blood, humanely appeasing her hunger, I also kept samples of her blood for my research.
You used her blood on Harriet Jones? My God, Edgar, that's unethical. You betrayed 2 of your patients at the same time.
I made a mistake. But what is science if not trial and error? We both know it, Jonathan, we both know it.
What a poor justification for your morbid fascination and thirst for glory.
You have worked beside me. You saw what I'm doing at Pembroke Hospital. Jonathan, you know I'm not an evil soul. Just another victim of this tragedy.
Okay, so now we also have a choice that's gonna affect the ending of the game, and that's also going to affect the whole district, because he's a pillar of that district. This is a very tough choice, and let me know down below in the comments what would you do with him, considering what he's done. And I'm going to choose this.
No, Edgar, you are not going to die. Unless you want to.
What do you mean?
I can save you, Edgar. I can turn your broken body into one like mine.
You truly would? After all I've done, after all that's been said, you would offer me this gift?
I have no way of knowing which punishment would be worse, Edgar. But it is not for me to decide. So?
Oh, please, Jonathan, please. I beg you. This is what I've always wanted. This is what I've always searched for.
Very well, then. Prepare to die and be reborn. To face an eternity of guilt.
I'm ready. Oh, indeed, I am ready.
Enough!
I wonder whose voice did we hear?
Don't forget to check every door.
So Harriet Jones became the original carrier when Edgar gave her vampire blood. I must tell Elizabeth.
See them fancy clothes? This one can... Put an end to you!
Now we are only missing 2 collectibles, and one of them is in the cemetery, so let's go get it.
Easy, sir. Remember your vows, friends. I'll send you back to the fucking grave. It's not you. Kill it. Stop, vampire! Easy does it, boys. We can deal with this vermin. Back in the grave, you.
Return later.
Now, since we died, we could go and rest and evolve a little bit.
Best run along home, sir.
I can't believe I'm doing this.
At least that mistress of the dark.
Good evening, Dr. Tibbets.
Dr. Reed,
How are things now that Dr. Swansea is back?
Dr. Swansea seems changed by what happened to him. Really changed.
Changed how?
I don't know. Happier? No, it's not that. More serene.
Is that a good thing?
Yes. It's like he finally found his true self.
Goodbye, Dr. Tibbets.
Hey, Doc.
How's the situation now that Dr. Swansea is back?
As shitty as always. People die, people cry, people disappear. This place is no different than the rest of this miserable city, Doc.
I'll leave you for now, Mr. Cox.
Miss, please, I feel sick. Get over here now.
Good evening. Goodbye. Hello again.
Good evening.
Goodbye. Good evening, Nurse Brannigan.
Good evening, Doctor.
Is everything all right now that Dr. Swansea is back?
The situation is hard, but Dr. Swansea promised me things will get better. He even said he'll take care of us all. And I believe him.
Goodbye, Nurse. Call me if you need assistance. Good evening, Milton.
Good evening, Doctor. Still trying to save lives?
How has it been since Dr. Swansea came back?
Rumour says you saved him. I must say, I'm impressed.
Goodbye, Milton. Good evening, Nurse Hawkins.
Good evening, Dr. Reed.
How are things now that Dr. Swansea is back?
I must admit, the situation is better. We still have to deal with the epidemic, but it's good to have someone in charge again.
Goodbye, Nurse Hawkins.
Damn. The pain. It's here again.
Good evening, Mr. Elwood.
Evening, Dr. Reed.
Is the situation better now that Dr. Swansea has returned?
I don't know. He seems different.
How so?
Last night, someone approached me while I was sleeping. I didn't move. Not a muscle, but he was sniffing my neck. Just like Thelma does.
Are you sure it was Dr. Swansea?
I recognized his cologne.
What happened then?
Left without a word. Gave me the right fucking willies, it did.
Goodbye for now, Mr. Elwood.
Fear and disgust on every street corner. The daily routine.
Good evening, Miss Howcroft. How are you tonight?
I need blood, Doctor. Warm, rich, vibrant blood.
Are things better now that Dr. Swansea is back?
The vampire hunters have not come back. I hope this time it's for good.
I'll leave you, Mistress.
I'm quite busy right now, Dr. Reed.
How is everything now that Dr. Swansea is back?
The hospital could not keep on like this without an administrator. So things are back to normal, I guess.
Thank you for your time. We'll talk later.
Will this shift never end?
Good evening, Mr. Fiddick.
Good evening, Dr. Reed. Any news about my operation?
How are things now Dr. Swansea is back?
He visited me soon after his return. He asked me if I'd agree to some experimental procedure. I said I'd think about it.
Goodbye for now, Mr. Fiddick. I'll see you later.
You always knew the words to calm the children, Ellen. As for me...
Good evening, Dr. Strickland.
And good evening to you, Dr. Reed. Can I be of any help?
How is the situation now that Dr. Swansea is back?
I'm impressed by the man. He was abducted, and now he's back happy as ever, helping the patients all night long. An example to us all.
Goodbye, Dr. Strickland. Good evening, Mr.
I'm okay.
How are things now Dr. Swansea has returned?
Better, I suppose.
I have to...
Falling apart.
Don't waste your time with me.
Good evening, Doctor.
How is the situation now Dr. Swansea is back?
I can't say if it's good news or not.
What do you mean?
He used to stay in his office a lot. Now he tends to visit the patients more, but he smiles less.
Goodbye, Mrs. Goswick.
Good evening, Dr. Reed. Such a pleasure to see you again.
Are things better now Dr. Swansea has returned?
Dr. Swansea visited here for the first time last night. He wanted to know if the corpses were adequately confined.
What do you think of that?
I'm glad, sir. We spent too many weeks facing death and disease without really taking security measures. It's good to have him back.
Goodbye, Mr. Chidana.
Jonathan, my dear, I can never thank you enough.
Thank me? For what?
Come now, you know what I mean. I am... well, I'm just like you.
I'm glad you like it.
How could I not be happy? You offered me the ultimate freedom. More than I ever could have dreamt of.
Have you news of Geoffrey McCullum? I'm sure both of you would have quite an interesting discussion after recent events.
He left the hospital without being treated for the severe beating you gave him. We'll meet again soon enough.
Do you not think he will kill you where you stand?
Funny you should mention it. I asked him once what he would do if I were a vampire. He said he would give me an hour for old time's sake.
How do you feel since you changed?
Absolutely fine. Did you know I can determine the health of every patient or nurse just by looking at him? Fascinating.
Have you taken a life yet, Edgar?
Don't you think that's a private matter? I would not ask you such an indiscreet question.
Do you feel the hunger?
Yes. It's very peculiar, not like mortal hunger at all. It's like I'm never sated. Fortunately, blood is no rare commodity at Pembroke.
What will you do now that you are immortal?
Experiment, my dear colleague. I have an eternity to make scientific progress. I could be the only scientist able to undertake extreme experiments upon himself.
My God, Edgar. Did you learn nothing from your forays into folly?
I have, I swear. No more experiments on mortals. See? I said mortals. How quickly the mind adapts.
What kind of experiments?
Who knows? Nervous shock, brain damage, pain and recovery. There's almost no limit to what my body can now endure. I could be the next Henry Head.
Will you continue as Pembroke's administrator?
Of course. I can help more than ever. And since I'm already dead, I can't get sick.
Are you not afraid Priwen will find you? Next time, they will do more than abduct and torture you.
I remain a man of peace. If things were to go awry, I would flee rather than slice them up as you would, my friend.
Have you seen Elizabeth? Has she passed this way since you returned?
No. And I'm terrified to see her again. I really am, Jonathan. She could very well tear me to pieces for what I did.
Goodbye, Edgar. I'm certain we'll meet again.
He's mine! I'll take him! Be strong, brother!
Not a good plan.
There's one of them! Watch yourselves! Get back in the grave! Oh, you bloody leech! Best stay back, sir.
I can't believe I'm doing this.
I'll kill it! He's dead! It's head!
So now we're only missing this collectible, which we can get from the side quest. Now let's go finish that side quest.
It's an eat! Kill it! We cannot be defeated! Steady, boys! We've got one of them! Yeah! Trust the lead, boys! Stay, Brandon! Hold yourself! Roll back to the hell and fun!
This is despicable. I have this thirst for blood. I can't believe I'm doing this.
Turn around. Steady, boys! We've got one of them! I'll send you to hell! I'd step back, sir! Turn around. Burn it, boys! There's one of them.
I have this thirst for blood. I can't believe I'm doing this.
Good evening, Dr. Reed. A great night, what?
Have you any news on Aloysius Dawson?
I heard he died and gave all his money to the poor. Now that's a good man. An example for us all to follow.
Goodbye, Mr. Russell.
Good evening.
Calhoun, tell me about your relationship with Doris Fletcher.
Oh, Doris. Cold fire and burning ice trapped in a perfect body. Our passion was as intense as it was brief. What an actress.
How did you meet her?
On a boat to France before the war. She was thinking about a career in Paris, and I was eager to try French gastronomy. We both returned disappointed.
I expect you've seen her on stage, too.
She really is the best actress of her generation. Such frailty and such strength at the same time. I hope she'll play again soon. She's been away for too long.
You sound surprisingly sad. Have you regrets?
I think of her as a divine dish. I'm glad I was able to taste it, but I regret I could only get a bite of her mystery.
You really loved her, then?
She fascinated me, Dr. Reed. I can't imagine what she must have endured through her life to reach such a level of emotion and sensibility.
Goodbye, Mr. Russell. I'm sure...
Remember, don't let any strangers come into... Crush the leech, boys! Back, demon! Back! Die, vermin!
How dare you interfere with my hunt?
Fuck!
Whispers of a sun. So many signs to interpret.
And we will continue this in the next episode, so if you liked this one, give it a like, dislike if you think it sucked, and see you next time. Thank you.